Yeah. Good. United Nations Education, Scientific, and Cultural Organizations. So that means the UN is making money off of this. They fighting against other white folks for us. Sheesh. That's what it used to look like, huh? Look who the funding was provided by. Funding was provided by the United States Agency for International Development through the Midwest University Consortium for International Activities. White man always got something to do with it. That's why it says, in want of all things. In want of all things. Esau, the Bible says he wiser than Daniel. Why the hell is he funding what's going on in Africa in the slave dungeons? Trying to hide something from us. They sent them first to Elmina and then exiled to Freetown. Elmina acquired goods from the Khan interland and re-exported to the whiter, that's Judah, and Benin.
Goes back to that map.
Yep, for cotton cloth, animal skin. Elmina means the mind. That's what Elmina go back to.
Elmina was given by the Arabs.
Deuteronomy 28:64 mentions how we would serve other gods. Listen good. From ancient times, the Eldina followed a system of religious beliefs and practices that forced an all-powerful God and lesser gods. Since the arrival of Europeans in 1482, many Adinas converted to Christianity. That is how you get white man Jesus in a black continent such as Africa. I'll show you some biblical history and historical facts of what happened to our people. This is Deuteronomy 28:48. It says, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. What do we see right here? We see the yokes of iron, the shackles that went around our wrists, our ankles, and our neck. So when you read the Bible, the Lord makes it very clear who would take us into captivity. He says our enemies. A lot of you don't understand that in America of who our enemies is. So I'm gonna read it. We're in a slave castle right now. It says the Portuguese in the 15th century started exporting slaves from West Africa to Europe, the Americas, and across the Atlantic Ocean. Other European powers, the Danes, the Dutch, English, French, Germans, and the Swedes soon joined in the trade, which spanned 2 centuries, showing you everybody took part in our slavery. Listen to this. Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 17. I will set my face against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies, and they that hate you shall reign over you, and you shall flee when none pursueth you. And if ye will not for all this hearken unto me, then I will punish you 7 times more for your sins. The slave trade is how we were punished by God for our sins.
I'd like to give a brief history about this castle. In Ghana alone, we have 3 castles and many forts. We have the Cape Coast Castle, built by the British in 1665. We have the Christianborg Castle, built by the Danes in 1661. And the last, the Elmina Castle, by the Portuguese in 1482. But today, our attention will be in Elmina Castle. This castle is called St. George's Castle, popularly known as Elmina Castle, built by the Portuguese in 1482. But they arrived here in 1471 for 3 main reasons: to trade, to spread the Christianity, and also extend their territories outside Europe. So whilst they were coming here, they came along with some of the European goods: tobaccos, gunpowder, schnapps, used clothes, with the exchange, the goods we have here, ivory, spices, and gold. And this mode of trade was called the barter trading. So through the normal supply of gold, the locals were given to the Portuguese. They had the impression that this town has a lot of gold. So rather they named this town Almina. Almina in the Portuguese language, meaning the mine.
Right.
But through the pronunciation of the name Almina by the locals, the name was corrupted into Elmina. But the original name of this town before the arrival of the Portuguese was called Anomansa. Anomansa simply means inexhaustible supply of water. With the Portuguese leader called Dom Diego de Zambuja and the 600 men, they started building a castle. Initially, the king at that time, called Anakwamanansa, was not ready to give them a plot of land. He felt that culture differences might be a problem in the future. And as a traditional ruler, he said something I quote, friends are better friends when they don't live together. But upon persuasion and assurance, he gave them a plot of land here. And they built the castle for two main reasons. As a trade post where they can store the European goods and also rooms for their missionaries to continue spreading the Christianity until 1500, where the attention shifted into slave trade. Why? Because at that time, the Spaniard, they had entered into the New World. So entered into the New World, they have opened tobaccos, plantations, but they want the riches, they want the wealth, but they are not ready to do the hard labor. So they subjected the natives for the work. And the history say European diseases, brutality of the work, decimated the indigenous population. And one man who is accused, a supposedly Catholic priest called Bartholomew de las Cascas, who had the sympathy for the natives for placing a black man. That's why the attention shifted into slave trade. But 1471 wasn't the first time Europeans have been in contact with Africans. 1441, they have been in Senegal. So Senegal, they took 10 men to Portugal. 10 men they took. 3 of them said to be a noble background. So they need to bring them back. In return, they give the Portuguese gold and human being. So 1441 in Senegal, 1471 in Ghana. That's why people have perception that they never built the castle here for barter trade alone, rather slave trade. Because in 1441, in Senegal, they had taken people before they came here in 1471. And the reason of taking the 10 men and some of them to be trained to hasten the spread of Christianity. But when they got to the palaces, they never returned back as they promised. 1596, the Dutch who made their first attempt to capture the castle from the seaside. They failed. 1612, they will build their fort in a town called Mori, 25 kilometers from here. They were trading with the locals over there. They had the profit the Portuguese were getting from the trade. 1625, they make a second attempt. They also failed. Locals here became fed up with the Portuguese. Locals felt that when the Dutch took over the castle, they're going to stop slave trade. So with the help of locals in 1625, from an attack, they failed. 1637, with the help of locals from the inland attack, the Dutch took over the castle. When the Dutch took over, they expanded the castle and started taking more slaves. 1807, British abolished slave trade. 1808, America did the same thing. But those who were doing actual thing here never stopped. So it turned into illegal slave trade. In the year 1872, they abolished slave trade. When they abolished slave trade here, the castle became unprofitable to the Dutch. Rather, Dutch had to swap possession with the British. Dutch took over British, one of their forts in northern Sumatra, Indonesia, and Britain took over the castle here. When Britain took over the castle here, they never used this castle for slave trade. They were using the Cape Coast castle for slave trade. Here, the British used the castle purposely for administration center, where at the time of the Second World War, they recruited young men from all West African English-speaking countries, brought them to the castle here, trained them, and sent them to Burma in India to fight for them. And we call them Royal West African Frontier Force. After the Second World War, the same structure was used as a police training school. In 1957, when Ghana gained independence, we took over the castle. So the time of the Portuguese, they used this structure here for 155 years. The Dutch, 235. British, 85. And Ghana have used the castle for 67 and still counting. So as at now, this structure is 542 years. 10 years older than America. And this happens to be the first and the largest European building in sub-Saharan Africa. In 1979, it was designated as a World Heritage Site by the UNESCO. This is the introduction of the tour. Question is allowed or suggested. And also, there's a lot of ways the Europeans were used to capture our ancestors. First of all, they were using force capture, capturing human beings by force. But the Africans were fighting against. So their attention shifted into raid and attacks. They would set fire in your homes. Whilst you're moving outside, they captured the gunpoint. And some of the Africans were working with Europeans to gather Africans. People do come in that Africans were selling their own family members, which is never true. Because at that time, family members was limited to a tribe, lineage, or a kingdom. So once you're not part of the kingdom or tribe, they see you as an outsider. So two tribes having a war, when one able to defeat the other tribe, they became a prisoners of war and then sent them to Europeans, but then their own tribe people. That brought a lot of slaves to Europeans because they came to conquer already divided people. So once you have a gun and gunpowder, you can arrange an attack on another tribe and be sent into Europeans as slaves. This mentality of African to become one is just recent. At that time, once you're not part of tribal lineage, they see you as an outsider. So divided and conquer was already existing in African communities. That's where the Europeans were smart in one direction, bringing in guns and gunpowder. So with the guns and gunpowder, you attack another tribe, whilst they've forgotten that they are part of you. So if they are one, it's going to be difficult for someone to penetrate because it was a tribal wars. So tribal wars brought a lot of slaves to the Europeans. And this structure here, we found ourselves here used to be a church built by the Portuguese in 1596. They were Catholics. But when the Dutch captured the castle in 1637, the Dutch, they were Protestants. So the Dutch never used this church, rather, they will build their own church on top of one of the female slave dungeon. And this church, they divided into two. The top room as their soldiers' mess, where their soldiers eat and drink. The down room as an auction room, where they buy slaves. But when the British took over the castle, the same place was turned into police training school. But right now, it's a museum.
How long would a slave be here?
So, at the time, at the peak of the slave trade, 1,000 enslaved Africans were kept here. 400 for the female and the 600 for the men. So every 3 months, 1,000 human beings were taken. And the slave trade lasted for 400 years. So 3 months. Why? Because at that time, petrol or diesel was not available. So the ships were using the wind to travel. So from Europe to Africa, it's a 3-month journey. So before they were reach here and take the 3 months slavery to outside the continent of Africa for every 3 months for 400 years. So every 3 months.
400 years.
Yes. And 1/3 survive for every 3 months. 1/3 survive. Being the
Would they go back and restock? Like, say you had 400 waiting for that next ship.
Yes.
You lost 200. Would
yes,
They go back and get some
and
more?
also I said 1/3 survive in the dungeons. Being the dungeons here was west, but being the ships was brutal. They were packed like books. One is to order. And whenever there's a shortage of food, they will start throwing human beings into the ocean. So people died in the ships, than in the dungeons, and from the ships to the plantation. So every step as a captive was difficult. Being the dungeons here, 1/3 survived. Being the ships, most of them died. And also in the plantation, brutality of the work, they were dying. This is the castle. And this is the fort. Fort St. Jago, built by the Dutch in 1665. So with the help of locals in 1637 from the inland attack, the Dutch captured the castle. When the Dutch captured the castle, they built a fort here. to protect the castle from any attack. That's why they spent 235 years than any other European country, because at that time we have a 5 forts on top of the hills to protect this castle from any attack. Because twice from the seaside they failed. So the help of the locals from the inland, where they pass, they built a fort here to protect the castle.
Did the Africans ever try to fight the locals?
Yes, the locals had a fight with the Dutch. So the Dutch bombed the old town of Elmina. When you go to the top there, I'll show you the old town of Elmina. Yes. So once you are done with introduction, you are going to start the walking tour. So let's move on.
There's still divisions amongst the tribes today.
Yes, up to date. Yes. We are the female section of the dungeon. And all the rooms here combined total for 400 women. In the male side, as I said, 600. So, every 3 months, 1,000 human beings were taken. And the slave trade lasted for 400 years. All right, so water reservoir built by the Portuguese. The tube was connected. Whenever it rains, they store the water here for domestic use, when it's washing or cooking. When the Europeans came here, they never came along with their wives because they were dying out of malaria and yellow fever, to the extent that the coastal land of Africa was termed as a white man's grave. So because of that, they never came along with their wives. Rather, they were abusing the women, the various dungeons here. The governor with the position will stand the balcony here, direct the soldiers to bring some of the women into the courtyard here. The governor will select the selected women. Because you have been in the dungeon for a month, you need to be brought in outside here and wash. After washing here, they will pass you to the private access to the governor's bedroom to be raped. All right, so the staircase where the selected women pass to the governor's bedroom to be raped. But when the ship arrived for the 3 months' time, due to the rape, some of the women became pregnant. So those who were pregnant, they will build a brick house for them outside the castle. When they delivered here, they brought the children and gave them formal education. And they are the mulattoes, the mixed race children. And they bear the father's name. So in the coastal land of Africa, that's where you have the names like Johnson, Ferguson, Wilson, Lear, Van der Poel, Van Dyke, and what have you. But they kept the children here for their own benefit. Through education, they brainwashed them that they are not Africans because you are skin color. So the children continue becoming the governors, soldiers, merchants, and what have you. But they kept the children here for their own benefit, as I said. And some of the women refused not to obey the governor. So they punished them. Let's see the punishments they give. Cannonball, it weighs 25 kg, equivalent to 50 pounds. At that time, we're having an 8 cannonball over here. Those who refused not to obey the governor, chains or shackles was connected to the cannonball with your hands or your legs. You'll be standing here from morning to evening, raining or shining, without giving food or water. When you become weak, from here to the governor's bedroom to be raped, to serve as an example for the women whenever an attack. Also, people do come in that the slave trade was a profit to the Europeans. That's why that treatment. Africans were very strong. So it's a system to suppress you so that you can't fight back. And also, to free themselves from a guilt, they develop a method that those who are able to survive in the various dungeons here, they are very strong enough to work at a plantation. And they said the way to eliminate the weaker ones from the strong ones. And as we're doing that, they were dying. And as I said, 1/3 survived for every 3 months. One of the female slave dungeon, about 150 women were kept in here. The castle was built in phases. Portuguese started building the castle. When the Dutch took over, they continued. So in the castle here, whenever you see the red bricks, it's from Portugal. This is the original floor from Portugal. And the yellow bricks here is from Dutch. When they were coming here, they came along with these bricks to give balance to their ships. But when they were returning back, human beings replace the balance. Because right now they have slaves. The clothes on the floor here, it is not original. 2015, 44 Africans from all over the continent came here to dramatize what happened to our ancestors. And during the dramatization, they spent 12 hours here. 12 hours spent here. No one defecated here. Just urine alone. We could not stay in dungeons here for 1 week. So imagine the time of the slave trade, where they were doing everything on the floor for 3 months before the ship arrived.
One room.
One room. So I always imagine myself, one person being in one place and doing everything on the floor. And imagine you person, and as you are having 150 years. People survive not because they want to survive. They survive so they can tell the history to new generation. Because it takes everything for you to survive. You be in one place doing everything on the floor for 3 months. And at the same time, people became blind in the one place because, as I said, 3 months because of the move on the ship. So they will be here, no outing for 3 months.
Wouldn't let them go outside?
No, until the governor want to.
That was the only time they left.
Only one time. So people became blind.
Wanna watch the women.
Watch them. So that's what, anytime you can move outside. Apart from that, you'll be in the dungeons here for 3 months.
Literally, we said you're gonna go blind. inside
Yes,
the
you go blind because you have been in a dark place because that time there's not like
out of
light.
that.
Yes.
So now all you see is dark.
Yes, dark. This is original bus. For 542 years. Original bus. Because it has rusted, we have a place in the wood over here. So this is original. So see the thickness of this metal. And on top here, the beams, the two over here is original, yes. And the three, 1, 2, 3, it's also original. All right, so one of the female slave dungeon, about 100 women were kept here. When we check the length and the breadth of these dungeons here, was not meant for human beings to sleep here, rather to sit, because there's no space for you to just relax yourself. The doors was enclosed with bars. We are moving to the largest female slave. So the largest female slave dungeon, about 150 women were kept in here. When the women were brought in the dungeons here, they were not allowed to go outside the dungeons. So containers was placed in the corner of the room for them to ease themselves. But being in the dungeons here for 1 to 2 months, sleeping on a hard floor, most of the women became weak. And some of the women are from Ghana alone. Some were captured in Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Togo, walking from that distance, crossing rivers, mountains. When they reached here, they became weak to the extent that they were able to have an access to those containers. Rather, they were doing everything on the floor. Defecating, urine, vomiting, eating, menstrual period for 3 months before the ship arrived. So once the door was closed with bars, this whole year used to be a source of ventilation for them. At the same time, where they were keeping their guns and gunpowder, so whenever there's a leakage from that side, the fuels come here straight here and wasting their already conditions. And we all say that may those who died, may their soul rest in perfect peace. And as I said, 1/3 survived for every 3 months for 400 years. This is not the original floor. The original one, the one I showed you, I said that the red one is from the Portugal side. So the castle was built in phases. Portuguese started building a castle. When the Dutch took over, they continued. Yeah, so the guns and gunpowder at the same time will be here. So whenever there's a leakage from that side, the fuse come here straight here.
Oh, and then they would be shooting and all that would be right here.
No. What I'm trying to say is that it's a magazine, right? At the same time, it's a ventilation. So their ventilation, whenever there's a fuse from the gunpowder, it comes straight here and western there.
Oh, this is where the smoke went.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
so it
yes.
wasn't ventilation from them. It was
Yes.
ventilation for the guns.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Damn.
Here you can see a lot of bats. See? Bats, yeah. They have been there for ages.
Yeah, the
Yes.
bats.
Yes. You only see them in the evening. Because in the daytime, they don't see.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're blind. So
they ain't gonna come
evening
out.
they come out. When the Dutch took over, they were Protestant. So the Dutch never used this church down there. So they built their own church on top of one of the female slave dungeons. So this is the church. So you see,
They worship their God.
they worship God there, and human beings were suffering down there. So the concept of heaven and earth, I can tell you that starts from the dungeons. They are worshiping God here, and human beings were suffering there. So yes, you see the difference. And what kind of God are they worshiping? Because where human beings were suffering, you are rejoicing at the top there. In the various dungeons, yeah, 1/3 survived here. The souls survived here when a ship arrived. That is the passage to the door of no return. At the time of the slave trade, there was a staircase here to the door of no return. But when the British took over the castle, they never used this castle for they used the people's castle. So they used this castle purposely for administration, where they turned this staircase into a drainage. So you see here, whenever it rains, water passes here to the door of no return. So they were not going to use this side to the door of no return. They're going to use the men's side to the door.
So they would go to the dungeon, and all they would do is go from the dungeon to right
From
here.
here to yes.
No other part of the castle.
Yes. From here.
Damn.
That's crazy. And then you right back on the ship.
Yes, from the ship straight.
Now, do you know if they loose pack a tight pack from here?
Yes. And funny enough, you don't know whether they are going to sell you or going to enslave you. You don't know. You don't have any idea about that until you reach your destination.
And they couldn't understand them, correct?
Yes.
They couldn't understand the
Language.
language.
The language, because as I said, funny enough, a lot of slaves were from Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Togo. So it's different tribes, different countries. So understanding of each other is good. And what I said, the Europeans were here in 1471. So in the beginning, they were doing the slave trade. So they learned the language as time goes on until the 1500. Yes. We are the one of the male slave dungeon. About 150 men were kept in here. The men were in shackles, but the female were in tags for identification. This room here is a branding room or identification room. When the ship arrived for the 3 months' time, they need to identify our ancestors. Metal was put in hot fire with their symbol to identify them, like a tattoo.
So they would get branded before they went.
Yes, like a tattoo. Your back, a chest. Most of them died out of the stress from the hot metal.
And they kept doing it.
Yes.
They ain't
kept doing
care.
this only for the men, not for the women. They brand them too. So the reason of branding them is that a lot of merchants coming to buy the slaves. So you need to identify that whether you belong to merchant A or merchant B. So that's how you branded them. With their symbols, like initials of their company. One of the companies is West Indies companies, the Dutch company. Yes. And also one of the companies, Mrs. Barclays, after the slave trade.
Barclays.
Yes, after the slave trade, they opened a Barclays Bank. You know Barclays Bank? Yes. Most of the old banks, they are merchants, Mr. and Mrs. Barclays. So the profit they gain from the slave trade, they started opening banks. And the top here is a feeding point because the soldiers are afraid that when entering into dungeons here, the men will attack them. So they feed them from top here. They will drop the food. You need to fight for your own food. Wow.
They dropped the food for
The
you.
battlefield. You need to fight for your own food. From here, we are moving to the door of no return. Please, you bow down when you reach there.
It dropped the food down.
Slave exit to waiting boat. Slave exit to waiting boat. You bow down one step at a time. You bow down one step at a time. One step. One step.
It's lower in the
Yes. All right, so this is the original staircase. But when the British took over the castle, they removed the staircase over here and turned this place as a drainage. So whenever it rains, water passes here to the door of no return. This particular room is where family members can meet. But when the ship arrives, the female pass here, the male pass here. They all meet here to the door of no return. So you're able to survive the residence here. You can meet your wife here, your children here, a friend you know for the last time from here to the door of no return.
Is it so small now because
Yes,
they
for
built
easy
up?
counting and easy movement of our ancestors. At the time of the barter trade, the door was larger.
Okay.
By the attention shifted into slave trade, they narrow it for easy counting, easy movement of ancestors because they'll be counting them one by one with the shackles on your hands. All right, so the door of no return. The door of no return. At the time of the slave trade, the sea was closer to the castle. The smaller boats will be coming here and taking them to the waiting ship. From here, the Portuguese were taking their slaves to Brazil, Ecuador, Panama, Honduras. The Dutch were taking their slaves to America, Suriname, Guyana, Haiti, Jamaica. When they were trading, which is some of the barter trade, the door was larger. But when the attention shifted into slave trade, they just narrowed the door for easy counting and easy control of our ancestors because they'll be in the shackles and be counting them one by one into the ship. And now back here, we Africans believe that our ancestors, their spirits are still here. So whenever it comes here, we pour libation to them. And we all say that may those who died, may their soul rest in perfect peace. And from today going, this door is no more a door of no return. This is a door of return. You're going to return back because you're no more slaves. This story about the slave trade or the castle, we can never use a day to tell because Africans have been slavery by the Arab groups and Northern Berbers for 1,300 years before the Europeans came. That's why in Africa we have the Islamic religion and the Christian religion because Arabs were invading Africa for 1,300 years. You know, because of the structure here, no one will believe about the slave trade. The Arab slave trade, when you tell people, like, you haven't heard it before because of the no structure to show. But this one, the triangle slave trade, because of the structures we have in the coastal land of Africa. That's why people believe about the slave trade. Yes, more than the Arab slave trade.
Mecca
Yes.
was the largest slave trade.
Yes. So, because as I said, this story about the slave trade, right? It comes in the twofold, the triangle one and also sand slave trade. And also before the Europeans were here, Africans have their own indentured servants. You owe someone, you can't pay. You go with someone to serve. It's not really the system before the Europeans came here. So today, we're not going to use that anymore. We're going to do it where we came from.
Oh, I do got a question. The women's dress, would they wear whatever they brought, or did they give them clothes when they got here?
No, I don't want to get it. So that's why they can capture someone without being wearing anything. So you'll be naked. So that's why we did the traumatization.
They would sit there naked.
Yeah, naked. So you can capture, as I said, that you can capture someone, the person naked, right? You will be the person. So you can capture someone without the person wearing anything. So once you are brought here, you'll be there till the 3 months will reach. And
Naked.
taking you naked, yes. All right, so from here we have a two separate cell. We have the European cell and the condemned cell. We are going to compare the two cells over here. So please, let's come this side.
When you say condemned cell,
For the Africans.
Okay.
Yes. This is the original metal for 542 years. And European cell for the corrupted soldiers. And some of the soldiers, but from Europe, were ex-convict. So once you're an ex-convict, you're not allowed to go outside the castle. But life at the castle was boring. Most of them went out without reporting. When you are caught, you are brought in here for some hours. So you know one died here. You can see the ventilation. It's okay. No
Two
one-
windows.
Yeah.
They had two windows.
Two windows. Yes, and you can see the ventilation is very better. This is for some hours. No one died there. We're going to compare it to our own cell, the African cell. And as you are moving, have a look at the top there. You see the scars and bones.
Skull and bones. They
It
put you there to
means-
die.
Yes, death. See the differences.
Yep.
Yes. This is a light.
Yeah.
Yes. See the differences of this. Shall we move it inside?
They gave you a wooden door.
Yes.
It'd be in the dark.
Yes.
Same conditions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Condemn self for the African freedom fighters. Those who want to free themselves from various dungeons. When you are caught, you are brought in here without giving food or water. When you died, you are thrown into the ocean. So you know one came in here and survived. Imagine 20 people were brought in here and the person beside you is no more. And you're waiting for your own death. No one came in here and survived. So imagine emotional torture people were going through before they would die. And this hose here was not a source of ventilation. This is a peephole. When someone died, they come and peep into the body into the ocean. So no one came in here and survived. Condemn themselves till you die. All right, so in the castle here, your position depends on where you live. All the down rooms at the time of the barter trade, that's where they keep in the European goods. But when the attention shifted into slave trade, the down rooms was converted into dungeons. So the peak of the slave trade, 600 men were shared among the rooms down here. 600 men were shared among the rooms down here. In the top rooms here, is where the priests, merchants, and the soldiers were living. The last but one room is for deputy governor. And the last room is for the governor himself. So in the castle here, your position depends on where you live. The higher position are you going to live. And on top here, you see we have a 2 watchtower. The watchtower was built by the Dutch to protect the castle from the seaside whenever an attack. But when the British took over the castle, the 2 watchtower was turned into a prison where they held one of the Ashanti's king called Nana Ajimembrembre in 1896 from here to Freetown, from Freetown, Seychelles. By 1924, he came back to Ghana to continue the throne. 7 years later, he died. Just last 3 weeks, they celebrated 100 years of coming back to Ghana. And they also held one of their Queen Mother, Yasantua, in 1900 from here to Freetown, from Freetown, Seychelles. But Yasantua died there. 100th anniversary of Yasantua, her remains was brought back to Ejiso, the hometown in Ashanti region, to be buried back. So the reason of capturing the Queen Mother, Ashanti, a tribe in Ghana here, they have a golden stool, and they believe that the golden stool unified the Ashanti kingdom, and the British won't take the golden stool from them. And they did a fake golden stool. At the age of 60 years, he led the war with the British government. He was captured and sent here, and sent to Freetown. Freetown at that time, the British have their administration over there. Later went to exile in Seychelles. And as I say, he died there. Just 2000, her remains was brought back to Ejiso, the hometown in Ashanti, to be buried back. And also the king supposed to pay 50,000 ounces of gold to the British government. He refused to pay that amount of money. He was captured and sent. And as I said that, 1924, he came back to Ghana to continue the throne. 7 years later, he he died.
Now that was the king of Ghana at the time,
Yes, yes,
and
Ashanti king.
they took him
Yes.
because they didn't want him to fight against them.
Yes, yes.
I saw that
Yes,
picture.
yes, yes. And you see the W sign there. You see inside there?
Yeah, custom design.
Yeah, so this is one of the Dutch companies,
Gotcha.
the West Indian companies I was talking about. Yes, they all did take a lot of slaves to America, Suriname.
That was the brand.
Yeah, that was like their symbol. Yes, America, Suriname, Guyana, and the two other side here is the Dutch symbols. This side and this side, and this the middle one is the company symbol. So when you are branding them with the initials W, they'll brand you with your back or chest to identify that you belong to the Dutch. Yeah. All right, you're moving to. At the female section of the dungeon, this is the staircase where the selected women pass to the governor's bedroom. Yes, the one at the female section.
Right to the bedroom.
Yes. From here to the governor's bedroom to be raped. Governor's bedroom for one person. One person occupying all the space here. I'm moving to governor's 2 living room. Bedroom here, 2 living room. Let's come here. So bedroom over there, right? And 2 living room. Washroom and everything is inside. At the same time, an exit. Whenever an attack, the governor can pass here straight to the ship. So one person occupying the space here. And thousands were suffering around there. One person.
See, they got enough windows for themselves. Windows everywhere.
So their boardroom where they held meetings. But right now, it's a craft shop. Their boardroom where they held meetings. Yeah, so here the governor will do the selection. From here, move to the top to the bedroom to be raped. Governor's kitchen.
Sheesh.
So the governor's kitchen, built by the Portuguese. When the Dutch came, they never used this kitchen. They built their own kitchen. So Portuguese kitchen, Dutch kitchen over the trust issues. Because Portuguese were here first, and later on the Dutch came. That's why they abandoned this kitchen and built their own kitchen over here. The church, they're down there. Dutch Reformed Church or the Protestant Church. When the Dutch captured the castle, because they're against the Catholic Church, they never used the church down there. Rather, they built their own church here. Beneath is one of the female slave dungeons. They are worshiping God here, and human beings were suffering down there. But when the British took over the castle, they maintained the church and renamed it John Wesley Church. So this happens to be the first Methodist church before moving to Cape Coast. The first Methodist church in Ghana. Methodist church. You see the white building over the top there? It's the fort. The fort I was talking about, Fort St. Jago, yes. Built by the Dutch to protect the castle from any attack in 1665. At that time, we have a 5 fort on top of the hill. 5 of them. 5 on top of the hills. Left with only this one.
That's the only one that left.
Yes. Left with only this one.
The other one.
It's no more. The maintenance is the problem. Yeah, that's the cultural maintenance of Africans. Because the castle itself is supposed to be doing maintenance. Because some part of places we are not supposed to go there because of the floor is weak, especially the governor's living room, right? The door over there, you're supposed to go there, but because the floor is weak, we can't go there. Yeah. Let's come
to the washroom.
Yes. And at the same time, so this side where I told you that they captured the king and the queen mother, you're supposed to go there, but the floor is weak. We can't go there. Yes. Let's come this side.
Was this a moat or was this water?
This is a moat.
That was a
Built
moat
by the Dutch.
Ah.
So the moats, the sea was closer. So they filled the moat with seawater. So whenever anyone attack the castle, they remove the bridge over there. It's a drawbridge. They remove a certain cover and access the castle. And there's a square diagram. It's a navigational compass or sander. They put stick inside and give them direction and time. It's like a with a shadow, like a clock. Give them direction and time. So the old town of Elmina was here. This is the old town of Elmina. And the Dutch bombed the town, so they need to move to this side. This is the old town of Elmina. They bombed the town and moved to this side.
You said they bombed it.
Yes, bombed the town. Yes. Down here, at the time they were building the castle, that's where the artisans, carpenters were living for the building of the castle. That's why I can say that this place is older than the castle itself.
So that's why they set up that up first, so they can build.
Before they could build this one. And also, at the female section of the dungeon, I told you that the reservoir was built by the Portuguese. But when the Dutch took over, they never used the reservoir. They built their own reservoir over there. So this place is all covered with water, raining water. And this building here, the ash one, you can see the ash building with the red roof. It's an old building built by the Dutch. That's where the
little red ones.
Yes. This one, the very one with the red one, and the one at the back. That's where the children, the mixed race children, were living. Yes, when they give birth, that's where they're living with their mothers. And after that, they brought them to the castle here and give them formal education.
Okay.
Yes.
This all seawater or is it a river?
No, this is a lagoon. Like this is not a seawater. This is a lagoon. Lagoon. It's why not have mixed with the sea.
It don't mix.
Yes. And this natural harbor, it was there before they built the castle. This is a natural harbor. But this one is just recently. This is a natural harbor. And you see there's a flag on the canoe, right? The locals, they don't have a compass for fishing. So the flag serves as a compass whenever they are fishing and coming back to the shore. The wind blowing means that they have seen the land. Yes.
That they what the land?
They have seen where they are supposed to reach.
Oh.
Yes, when they're coming back and the wind is blowing, it means that they have landed. They have seen the land, yeah. Because at the deep sea, you can't see the land. So whenever it's blowing, it means that they are landed. Any question? Any question? All right, so we're going to end our tour over there.
Okay. All right, let me do another video up here. You
Another
good?
video? Okay. Yeah. This is where we end our tour for today. Once again, this castle is 542 years, 10 years older than America. And this happens to be the first and the largest European building in sub-Saharan Africa. In 1979, it was designated as a World Heritage Site. And we all say that an everlasting memory of our ancestors. May those who died rest in peace. May those who return find their roots. And may humanity never perpetrate this injustice against humanity. And we the living, we vow to uphold this. So this is where we end our tour for today.
I do got one question.
Yes.
Now, chattel slavery, the way this was done.
Yes.
In your histories, in your studies, has any other group of people went through this type of slavery?
No, Africans have their own indentured servants. You owe someone, you can't pay. You go with someone to serve. It's no way in existence. Every race have that kind of indentures have before. So the Africans themselves knew the indentures have not what the charter slavery they introduced to us. So it was totally different.
So,
Yes.
so you're saying in your studies,
Yes.
this form of slavery, chattel slavery,
Yes.
that was the only people that ever went through that.
No. This is the first time.
Yep.
Because I said that the indentured servants, we are having the persons like the history about the Bible, Joseph and Egypt, right? So he's from the Potiphar house and you rise to become. So the same indentured servant, you can rise
Right.
to the level you won't choose when the person have the managerial skills.
Yeah.
But what they introduced us was totally different.
Right.
This is a force capturing human beings.
I do got it. I'm sorry. Were there any uprisings, rebellions?
Those who rebel,
They went to the dungeon.
No, the cell.
I mean, the
the cell.
condemned cell.
The condemned cell.
But what do we have any history of those or no?
No, never.
Yeah.
Unless those who were built were mostly outside.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Especially some of the Africans entering into America were rebellious. Some of them were free themselves to the interland. Yes. And they were part of those who were able to help to came out in abolition of the slave trade. Because as I said, they abolished slave trade in America in 1808.
Yeah.
Yes. And I've forgotten the particular man. He was a rebellion slave, moved from the plantation. He was fighting against the Europeans. And because of that, it came to a time that they need to abolish slave trade in America. I've forgotten a man like, yes, I've forgotten a particular person. He was a person who helped in the abolition of slave trade. Because abolition of slave trade was 1807 in British, 1808 in America, not in Ghana, but their own country. But they have gone to their parliament to abolish it, but still people were doing illegal slave trade.
What is a nation?
Nation is men leading by example. Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is children with role models. Nation is unity. Nation is you.
And finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord. His word